Hello, this is episode 3. Now, what I was trying to say, and I stumbled a little when I explained it in the previous two-part video, episode 2, right? So you got a ruler that's either in one side. If you know how to count millimeters on either side, fine. What you do after you got your a certain mixture that you want to use, this is what I was trying to show before. Put your ruler right there and you put your thumb on that, and what you do is you get your liquid compass or whatever. After you spent fucking 30 minutes, 32 minutes to 2 hours, 32 minutes to 2 hours, and you burn it in on the fuel mixture you want to use. You look at the burn-in patterns. You look at the it's easier if you got the millimeters measuring ruler, right? You can measure millimeters directly and show you. But anyways, as I was saying, what you do, you line the lines up on the ruler itself, and what you do is you get your liquid compass. You start from the middle, you move it up until you to the point you see that rod that of the north. Make the north arrow spin and swing around and point right to that spot. You mark it. You travel down southward until the south end swings and spins around, swings and points right at that spot. And you mark it off, and then you cross over the burn-in pattern at the length, where you mark it at, and with the actual measurements there. And you want to get millimeters to be more precise. That way, you get the rod. Don't do it with this rod, but you get a rod. You keep this stored somewhere so you can make more rods just like it, and you get a new rod and you cut it at that exact length of millimeters and make sure it's the end that makes the compass point north is either flat like this, flat but a bit more smooth, I would argue, and then you can do that. It's flat and smooth, or you could cup it inside. And then the end that makes the compass point south can be made into a bullet point. That's how you do that. And you do that. Now you're going to do the same burn-in process once you get the rod in to make sure it's all, and you make if it's a horizontal reactor, you make the north end of the rod point actually north you look at your compass and aim it. So if it's a vertical reactor, you don't have to worry about that. It's just it's going to point up. The north end is going to point upward regardless. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let me give you a few warnings. Okay, some warnings. That'll ensure accuracy of the length and millimeters and metric length of the rod and everything. It'll maximize your chance of success in this area. Anyways, the rest of the actual videos, video 3, or it's episode 3 video subject, I meant to say. First off, yes, it worked. It's confirmed to work as a fuel reformer at the shittiest. You got mass-produced versions in France and other places, a couple of places in Europe that sell it. They're reproduce half-assings of it, deviations, and it works, and it actually works. It drops pollution and it raises miles per gallon. You can think of it like this: you could probably use the Culpra as an alternative to the Hyco 2DT canister. You can pair it with preheated diesel fuel or biodiesel if you want, and stuff like that. And you can bottom out pollution even further with that combination of effects. You know, if you go look at my videos about cleaner burning, higher mileage diesels, you could use a reformer like an Culpra instead, as a supplemental, instead of a Hyco 2DT if you want to. And that kind of purpose, you got something there. If you did the Gillier deviation of the Pantone system and you actually used this for a tractor, that would work too. I've had them in hundreds of tractors already. I got links, citations out the fucking wazoo about that. There's one video where they caught a guy named a channel of Serve All One, I think, there's a ring of baby blue, bright baby blue light around the rod inside his vertical reactor. That's probably plasma. That is probably plasma. He managed to get all these conditions right enough to make plasma inside there. But not the other claims that I'm going to get into. That and the fact that it actually can work as a reformer already. And static electricity is a fucky thing. And so these things are technically already very possible and are easier to reproduce than the more controversial claims about the GEET that I will divulge into. Did I say that right? Yep, divulge into. Okay, I was right. The spelling in my head, I didn't remember exactly if I spelled it right in my head as I said it. So, but I needed to replace the E that had popped up in my head with the I. But other than that, I said it okay. I always check myself, right? Try to anyway. So the more controversial claims. So the most powerful or the most efficient combo of effects that the GEET is supposed to be able to be capable of doing, right? Supposed to be able to do in ideal conditions would be plasma reformer, plasma pincher, and atomic accelerator. Now, if you want to leave this video and whatever, I don't blame you. Okay? Just hear that part out. Just hear that out. If you don't want to believe that, that's perfectly fine. I told you what effects I wanted to recreate in episodes 2, episode 2, part 1, and 2, part 2. Okay? I done said it there. So, if you want to shut this video off, I do not blame you. Those of you who got the patience and are wanting to hear what I say, thank you as well. Thank you for hearing me out. As controversial as this gets. I told you guys this shit was controversial from the start of this series. Some of the shit was very controversial. I told you. I warned you. You cannot say I did not warn you. You objectively cannot, because you'd be lying to yourself and to me and others who see this series. Okay? You cannot tell me that. So, without further ado, let's get further going. What we're going to have to do if we're going to actually make the other two claims, I want to verify the plasma thing first, or disprove it. I think we can be verified. I think it's possible. I want the plasma part to be verified. The other two claims, if you really want to see if you can do it, I'm going to advise against this personally for safety reasons and legality reasons. But if you got a set of testicles or ovaries, God bless you, you're ballsy, and I warned you. Now let's continue on. Say you, this is just an experiment. This is just an experiment to test. That could be done to either debunk or prove the most controversial of the claims. And, again, this is a bit dangerous, and that bare minimum can get you in trouble. So if you did do this, and you were nutsy, or if you're a woman who's ballsy, or if you're a guy who's ballsy, more power to you. I warned you. Simple as. Do not hold me responsible for what you're fucking up. Okay? Do not. I'm not going to accept it. So, if you want to see if you can make the acceleration and plasma pinching alongside the plasma reforming effects, hand in hand, all three together at the same time, kind of effects or claims, this is what you could do to actually put that to the test. Consider using a modified carburetor for gasoline or kerosene to keep it simple. And then a separate modified carburetor, I'm just going to read off the notes just to get this over with. For the preheated radioactive waste contaminated water. This is something that could be done if you're in Japan near Fukushima, or if you're in Minnesota. You have that one nuclear reactor that's leaking atomic waste right now. And near that nuclear plant. Hundreds of thousands of gallons. since it makes things less complicated due to only preheating if the radioactive water would be required in this case. You'd need a way to pipe the radioactive water from a safe distance to the externally radiation shielded water container that would be used for this generator as a gas or a stationary engine as one of the two gas tanks for this application. Or be safe to carry, or a safe way to carry it without being poisoned or irradiated yourself like a fucking dumbass. If you want, you can go back to episode 2 and the start of this video, both parts of episode 2, especially part 2, but this video and the start of this video as well. So I explain how to burn a rod in to make a new reactor rod for the reactor for this experiment, then hook up the exhaust smoke output of the stationary engine to an analyzer that goes to a computer, and it's got a program that can not only do exhaust emission screening, but also can scan the fucking table of elements, right? The table of elements as a part of the programming design, and also pick up atomic numbers. Once the results are in and you manage to do this, and you film yourself doing this, make sure your face is covered, your eyes are covered, your hands, your skin, it's all that's covered if you're going to do this kind of shit. Because again, if you're going to open source stuff like through 8chan or archive.is or if you wanted to torrent the video files, go ahead. Once the results are in, like I said, you can open source these results and anonymously, of course. Have some, and do it away from your house. Upload the video shit away from your house. Make sure you clear the scenery up that you're going to do it at. Make sure there's nothing incriminating or that people won't know where you're at. Okay. Make sure that it will look totally different than what it normally does. Stuff like that. Protect yourself. This will be very controversial. I promise. If you did do this kind of experiment to prove or disprove this kind of shit, it's going to be controversial regardless. The reasons for my proposal for this experiment involving radioactive waste, contaminated water or whatever, it has implications for Fukushima, it has implications for Chernobyl, it has implications for Minnesota, that spot, it has implications all around. Atomic waste ionizes surrounding air. Just put it in the right container. You put it in a container, you see how the radiation emission, it will ionize stuff. Technically, you could take polonium and turn it to nanoparticles to make a colloid with water and use that as well if you wanted to. There's all kind of ways to get polonium. I'm not going to tell you about that because then I would be I'll be glow posting on myself. You could probably find out. It's probably anywhere. So I'm probably glow posting on myself just saying that. So, as an example, imagine a fuel reformer that can crack apart atomic waste, whatever fuel you want to reform it with, like higher mixed alcohol fuels from garbage, syngas from gasifying garbage, naphtha, jet fuel, biomethane, gasoline, propane, any of that shit. The other reason that's a big implication. There's a lot of other implications with that too, but the next reason is, well, that's the second reason. The first reason I was saying, I kind of fucked myself up there, pacing, is the fact that the radioactive radiation has ionizing properties, and it would increase the likelihood of a plasma going down because the radiation, particles emitted off. Okay, alpha, beta, so on and so forth. These emissions help ionize the vapors a lot more. Secondly, when you have higher ionization, you have higher plasma, a likelihood of forming plasma, and if it enhances the plasma effect, it'll enhance the conductivity and the spiraling around the rod that's levitating and hovering and spinning, and it'll also increase the likelihood of a stronger magnetic field. And if the stronger magnetic fields occur, well then you already have the acceleration part from the rod spinning in that Bernoulli and Venturi effects around the clearance between the rod and the inside of the pipe, also acting as an acceleration series of accelerator mechanisms, right? You might increase the likelihood of a plasma pinching effect, possibly, if the magnetic field's strengthened enough. But if that's the case, you're going to have to record from a distance that won't fry your fucking memory. That's another one of the claims. And apparently the rod that's broken in can do that too. That's why you would keep it away from a fucking computer or your monitor or whatnot once you do it. So this would help engender a higher likelihood of these kind of reactions if they're going to occur. This will again engender the higher probability of them actually occurring. Let's say engender a more ideal scenario. Let's put it that way. Now, as I'm finishing up when I say this, because I'm also ad-libbing a little bit from my notes. I'm going to edit these notes and I'm going to post them as well. I'll only list a few things. First off, what to look for when you do this kind of experiment. Look at unusual readings on the table of elements analysis of the exhaust in this program. Okay. Number one. Number two. If there is no CO2 more than the ambient environment, there's no carbon monoxide, no NOx, nitrogen oxides, or no sulfur, no sulfate, no sulfur no sulfur oxides or sulfates, no hydrocarbons, none of that. It's all zeros. And that's number two. Number three, the muffler will be cool to the touch. If you put your muffler, or the exhaust output will be cold to the touch as it's exhaust output from the reactor hits your hand. It won't burn you. It'll be cold at best. At worst, it'll be room temperature, same as where you're at then. Fourth, there will not be any pollution at all. That's what I'm getting at. Fourth, it won't have any smell in the exhaust. Five, there will be no nanoparticles of radiation or any kind of alpha or beta radiation or whatever, and gamma stuff coming out of the exhaust, or radioactive isotopes coming out of the exhaust. These would be the things to look for if you're going to conduct this kind of very dangerous and very controversial experiment to either prove or disprove these claims. These are what you would have to look for. These are the main things to look for. And you would have to let your magnetically shield your equipment just to be safe. And keep your laptop or computer or whatever a good distance away from the equipment that's got the program on it, away from everything. And there you go. This is how you would do that kind of experiment to prove or disprove the particle accelerating, plasma pinching, plasma field reformer combo claims. That's what the GEET's. That's the most controversial of the GEET's claims. If you want to put it to test, this is how you do it. Lastly, if you want to, you can send $250 to the GEET International, and you'll have the equivalent of what Pantone taught for $5,000 per person for an entire class to teach you how to do this stuff. And you get all the basics, and you'll be a basic GEET student, if you will. And that's what you get. And you'll also know how to build a furnace with this thing that'll actually work, the proper dimensions, metrics, and all that shit. You'll also have like all sorts of different documents out the wazoo you can read. Teach you how to do all that shit. There's all kind of stuff there. And I'm going to warn you, the online free plans, these are better than that. I've seen them with my own eyes, so I'm telling you this. And you can cross-reference them with my little supplemental info on the fucking Mega.NZ link that I have. If you buy that package, you can cross-reference it with my Mega.NZ plans. Absolutely. Just to get the regular stuff going and to run on different alternative fuels and tune it with a rod, different rod that's burned in or cut based on a previous burned in rod at the right length. The way you tune your engine, is put a new rod in and make sure it's going to get burned in for a while before you do anything else. That's how you tune your the reformer to do different fuels. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. This is independently confirmed as an actual reformer. And I said explicitly what effects I want to see attempted to be recreated. Not even going into this video here. Now that I got the controversy that I've warned everybody that's seen the previous videos out of the way, I've done that. I'm going to link the stuff down below. And this is the efforts there. David Pantone, Paul Pantone's son. Bless that guy. He's great. Fun to talk to. And Daniel Gonzalez are working together to do the relaunching the stuff and doing their own research and getting donations and getting the packages for the class and all that. It's everything you could ever hope for in your files, for learning this stuff and how to do this kind of stuff. And dude, you could turn a septic tank, you can turn the emissions of a septic tank into fuel for your house. Some of these plants that I actually got. Plus, lastly, I took screenshots of one of the live stream videos from the TeslaTech conference and some of that and those supplemental plans, those little supplemental house and home energy co-generating diagrams and stuff, basics. I got them too. It's already live streamed. It's already there. It's already out in the open. I just screenshotted them with the computer here. Click, click, click. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and put those images together. They're also going to be on the Mega.NZ link as well. Please go subscribe to TeslaTech. Mr. Steve Ellsworth could use the support. I hope he does find a woman or a man that's willing to take over, because he's been doing this shit for 30 years, fighting a good fight. And we need more people like them, okay? And we need to keep that shit going. Thank you all that have stayed and watched all this. I'd love the hell out of you. Those who didn't, I understand. But thank you so much. Western Po' Boy signing out.